So please, first, as usual, it's a relaxed thing. We're gisting. We want to learn, share experiences, and especially from those of you that are out there on the floor, we have the higher floor here. Uh, this particular session is about building Nigeria's digital infrastructure. And in this case, we're looking just at transit provision as well as what we call Infracos. So I'd like to have my colleagues here introduce themselves, what they do within their organizations, especially as it relates to the subject matter, transit and infrastructure companies. So maybe not specifically or not restricted to Infracos in the sense of that word as used by the Nigerian regulator, but companies that are involved in building of infrastructure that takes capacity from, especially from the landing points where we look at, into the places where that's needed. Sorry, please go ahead, sir.
Uh, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adeyemi Olaoshebika, and I work with Airtel Nigeria Enterprise Network side. Prior to that, I've been involved in several infrastructure builds within the country. From almost like about 13 years ago, where we ran fiber cable into Benin Republic to bring in capacity from Benin Telecom into the country. That's area where we only have Nitel, and we all know all the issues that arise with Nitel at that time. So one of the things we did in my previous life company was to ensure that we ran cable into Benin Republic and bring in SAT3 connection into Nigeria, which became a game changer before the arrival of the private submarine cables like May1, Glow. And after leaving the place, I've worked with May1, the head of transmission planning, work actually regarding the submarine side and the terrestrial side of it before joining Airtel. And Airtel, just the same thing, build infrastructures, connectivity for wholesales, enterprise, and likes of ISPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Emi.
Testing. Good morning, everyone. My name is Saeed Awojide. I'm the CTO of Backbone Connectivity Network. Just a little on a lighter note, BCN is always represented. They always call us GBB, Galaxy Backbone, right? And just for people to get that very clear here, BCN is totally different from Galaxy Backbone. It was so bad, they actually paid GBB instead of paying BCN. Just on the lighter. So Backbone Connectivity Network is over 20 years old. We are into long distance fiber infrastructure build, metro fiber infrastructure build, and last mile. We're predominantly in the northern part of the country, but we leverage on third-party providers in order to be a national player. So is our partner, MTN. We are a network agnostic. We try to collaborate with as many players in the industry as much as possible. I have a background in network operation and management. I worked with MTN. I worked with Zain before they became Heltel in Ghana. Then I relocated to North America. I've worked with Rogers Communication in Canada, TELUS, Allstream, now Zayo, before I jackpot to Nigeria. And BCM brought me back. And the idea is to make the telecom infrastructure space better.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So I was going to say that between the two or maybe three of us, if there's any blame or any credits to be given or taken for the current state of transit and infrastructure, feel free to appropriate in this direction. Apart from, okay, maybe I'll let you off a little bit because you reversed jackpot to Nigeria. Right. So, Yemi, you talked about the old days when Nigeria was able to, or at least a Nigerian business was able to look at the problems with the SAT3 infrastructure or service, and you went across the border to pick from Benin Telecom to start selling in here. Something that maybe many of us don't pay attention to is the fact that Nigeria can actually be a gateway to markets that are land connected behind us. Are there any efforts currently, and what's the business case like?
Okay, thank you for that. I think presently now, you know, Airtel have like presence in about 14 countries. Nigeria Republic is one of them. Presently, all the capacity around that axis now is going through the Nigerian border to access all the submarine cables. So, in terms of infrastructure build, there's already connection all the way to some of these up countries from on the north side of Nigeria. And I know, I think on the other side, on the subsea side too, there are still some connection to the neighboring countries in like Cameroon, where we have this NSDC cable going in there. So in terms of us serving as like a gateway, indirectly we are already doing that indirectly. Maybe the scope of it is only just going to be limited to countries that are inland locks instead of countries that have their own submarine cable and they have access to the sea where they can lay their own cable.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, or maybe I should ask you in advance before I hear from Said what's his own experience, and it doesn't have to be directly your own company's experience, any efforts that you're aware of. The question for you, Yemi, which you can answer afterwards, is about scale. At what scale? Because I know it's different if an MNO is providing transit to the next country. They're probably fine with 10 gig to carry all of their voice and SMS traffic or whatever it is. At what scale are these efforts and how can that benefit us? But let me hear from you, Said, on your experience or knowledge of what's going on in this space.
Yeah, the great question. I would rather, let's start from Nigeria first, right? If you look at...
So I want to jump across Nigeria.
No, I'll get there.
Okay.
So Nigeria right now, if you look at the terrain, capacity stock in the southern part of it. And that's where everybody's coming. So it's very logical that the prices of capacity in southern Nigeria is more affordable, right? And internet penetration in southern part of Nigeria is higher than northern part of Nigeria. So we need to, first of all, bridge that gap first. In doing so, it's easier to now say, I want to go to Niger, I want to go to Chad, I want to go to Central Republic of Congo, I want to go to Benin Republic, Togo, Burkina Faso, then cross across to Sudan, then maybe get to Djibouti. The session before this, I actually wanted to ask that question that, hey, What about if we build a mesh network across Africa? Would that make the submarine cables more resilient? The answer was yes. If we can cross from Nigeria to Djibouti and all the other African countries, if the submarine cable cuts in the East Coast from Nigeria to the East Coast, will be a redundant link. However, the cost, right? In order for us to be nimble in cost, that's where collaboration comes to play. And in collaborating, and I really want to reach out to the big players in the industry that, come and play in that space in such a way that you're collaborating with ISPs, even though we are local in Nigeria, we collaborate with MTN, the likes of Wyok, all these Google, we collaborate in order for us to make it happen from Nigeria to Djibouti or anywhere else.
Okay, so now you've taken us back to the question of scale. Yes, there's a problem to be solved in Nigeria, but what if the markets up country are not so large? And if you now start looking at it as not just you solving for Abuja and Kano, but you're looking beyond there. So you're going to Niger, Chad, headed back in the other direction. Do you think that's going to help the case? Because at the end of the day, if you're talking of bigger pipes going through, won't it help if we've calculated the markets up there? I don't know.
I think let me just comment on that. Presently now, I think maybe the two MNOs already have all the states on lockdown in terms of presence.
Okay.
However, the challenge is you discover that the model is in terms of the market size of customers. The model regarding operational costs. Yeah, most times it's like some cost, but it will be impacting on the profitability you are getting from the southern part of Nigeria. So you end up having like 100 gig into like Sokoto or Kano, but at the end of the day, you hardly go beyond maybe 20 gig. And you have put in a lot of infrastructure, capacity, equipment, right of ways, and all those things into that location. So it's a narrow area where the business just need to sometimes look at it like just have to serve the customer in those places. So sometimes you need to go beyond just the name as a company. Uh, you need to go in terms of your nationality and how we want business to be done. Or else you might end up saying there's no reason why you have to go to this area.
Okay. Just to get a clarification from you before Said, you said the major network operators have the states on lockdown. When you say they have them locked down, what do you mean? In terms of coverage, I think that was what you were referring to when you said you have them locked down. Is that to say that there's enough fiber going there?
So presently now, I think we have fiber. The two major MNOs, even the third one, have fiber almost around the corner. Every capital, their presence, diversity, everything. But the challenge is not to pull the fiber into the place. It's to how to monetize it and how to sustain it. Because you end up seeing major road construction damaging your cables and everything, etc. Like that. But there is pretty fiber coverage around the country right now.
Okay, so we'll come to business models in a moment, but Said, please.
Yeah. So I think the adoption of internet solution needs to increase. If there's adoption, if there's demand for internet solutions to ride on, let's say, e-health, e-education, e-government, e-farming, right? Quality anything. If the demand increases, then there will be a market, right? So, and that's where we want to play. And I like what Yemi said about right of way. Right of way is a huge cost. Imagine if that goes to zero. And some states are already doing it in the north in order to encourage ISP coming to their states. So if we see more of that, it becomes very business viable to go there, since right of way cost is zero, right? That's just one. Then again, last session, they spoke about regulators. Regulator needs to come in and try to play in that space and engage governments that, hey, you don't need to go paperless. Your procurement process can be online, make things easier. So when the demand increases, then the business logic to leverage on our infrastructure to deliver these services, would even security can be used, right? Imagine we have a secured network for the police force nationally, that they can do VoIP in a secured network for all the both security, healthcare, ambulances, and all that. That's huge data that needs to be consumed. So we need to be intentional in creating that demand. And in the developed world, government is the highest consumptions of everything. So government needs to step up and create that demand for data. And with that, you will drive the penetration, you drive building in the infrastructure. Then by the time we're everywhere, everybody is consuming it, then we can go to all the other African countries and create IGR for Nigeria, because it's an export product, right?
Okay. So, random question. Is the government a good customer? In the space that we're in, is the government a good customer?
Yeah, you were talking with Prof. Was that yesterday? We were talking to the Prof. Prof was saying, let's do free. Free to, when you're running your fiber, create access points, make it free to the government so that we can be sticky, we can be partners. And I understand that part, right, under CSR and all that stuff. But there's a limit to what you can do free as a business owner. You want to make profit. You have salary, you have overhead that you have. So yes, we're ready to do that, but it has to have limitations, right? Is government a good customer? I don't want to shoot myself on the foot. They are a good customer, right? But they can be better.
Okay. Yemi?
I think from my own side, government is a good customer. Very, very good.
Who is
the only area where I would like them to have come into is all this our national infrastructure. Ability to be able to protect them from vandalism, ability to protect them away from road construction, because I can tell you that in a month you have almost close to about 1,000 fiber cuts around the country. And if you look at it, most of them are going to be from government contractor, either federal or the state, building one road or the other. If that can be reduced to the barest minimum, then we will have what it takes to support this network and even expand, because right now most operators are spending money for operational cases instead of building out more infrastructure. So support that will be required in that area will be on to minimize the impact of all this vandalism and road construction, cutting of cables. Again, maybe if there is a global policy where they can harmonize the state to have almost zero right of way across the country. As I'm talking to you, there are some states that are charging up to 10,000 naira per.
10,000 naira per
per meter.
linear meter.
Per meter. To build a fiber of 1 meter, you pay up to 10,000 naira. So in those kind of cases, the incentive is not there. The business case will fail, even if the customer or the government is ready to pick up the service. By the time you put all these costs together, you end up seeing a scenario where the operator cannot be subsidizing government because they want to provide the service.
Okay. So we have a business challenge there, or we have multiple business challenges. The rights of way costs, and the fact that you're spending so much effort repairing and restoring what you've laid. So, way forward.
Well, I want to concur with Yemi because is on point. That's the challenge we face on a daily, not daily, on a per hour basis. Per hour, cuts. So I think government, if there are ways we can come up with models that's a win-win for everybody. And I think rather than point fingers, we can all come onto a round table and say, hey, you know what? Right of way, you're collecting it. What are you even using it for, right? You want to make revenue? Okay, reduce the amount. ISPs, telcos come together. We build docks collaboratively in such a way that they are well protected, and we know government, whatever we're paying for, maybe you have security outfits that will do the surveillance, because really surveillance goes a long way in preventing the cuts from happening, is more proactive. We can even introduce technology. Do you know there's tech that you can put on your fiber, even if someone's digging, it triggers the location and you'll be able to get the person before they vandalize the cable. Construction firms, they are the top violators. I know there's a law that's been gazetted, but the fine print in that law, there's no penalties, right? So government needs to be intentional and say, hey, we want to not just talk the talk, we want to walk the walk. Fiber infrastructure is critical assets. If anybody does anything to it, will be penalized. And we'll see a downfall of it. Like you said, if that goes away, we can spend that money we are using to fix, to expand, grow to other locations in the country.
Okay. That kind of makes sense. But now when we look at how we've evolved in the Nigerian space, especially as regards long distance infrastructure, we have multiple. So if we were just starting, it could have been easier to say, hey, instead of paying X state 10,000 naira per meter, you and I and the other guy can come together. The guy wants 10,000. We pay him 10,000 once, 128 cores, and then we can share. But I think that ship has already sailed because we have lots of fiber along the same routes, and it's impacting on the users. I can't take a circuit between Lagos and Abuja and say I'm taking only one. I'm going to take from this person and that person and that person to try to protect, and then that raises my costs. And ultimately, I think that affects the demand at the other end. And that's why somebody can shoot a few satellites and take over the entire market.
So, even on the satellite side of it, you know, most of these LEO satellites still have Earth stations, still installed all over the country. So, and they are still connected to these backbone fibers. So, if you don't have level of resiliency that is strong enough, that after a while, your availability starts going down too, just like people fiber cut every day. So I don't know how those LEO satellite operators want to run it, but that is going to be a huge challenge for them, because if the national fiber network, if it's not that resilient enough, it will have impact on the services that they are providing on the satellite as well.
Okay.
Yeah, totally agree with him. But just to shift a little bit to the topic, IP transit, the way we can achieve that in a very quick way is by collaborating, right? There are a lot of foreign uh, uh, companies that are specialized in IP transit that can come into the space and collaborate with local companies like us, and we build a win-win situation, right? Capacity is stuck in southern Nigeria, IP transit, wholesale, lift it up from Lagos, take Lagos to Abuja, take Lagos to Kano, take Lagos to Maduguri. If Lagos is in Maduguri, then it's easy to penetrate into mid Africa, right? Central Africa, right? And make it nimble, provide redundancy for all the neighboring countries that we have from northern part of Nigeria. And the advantage Nigeria has is the number of submarine cables that's plugging into southern part of Nigeria is a huge advantage that we need to take advantage of, right? And government needs to see that opportunity, right? Imagine we have a telco infrastructure bank, Nigerian telco infrastructure bank, that provides that kind of fund that, yes, we see an opportunity here, take the fund, low interest rate, collaborate with foreign partners, get us out there, and, government is going to make huge revenue in Forex.
Okay.
Just to buttress what he mentioned, the IP transit in let me just use Lagos is fully developed. I mean, fully developed, as in terms of you see every data center that are tier 3, you will have one transit provider or the other there. Some have almost all of them, right? We need to go replicate that same model up country. Abuja is trying, but I don't see them getting there easily because I think maybe we have 1 or 2 data centers there, but they need to have something of similar nature in like Lagos. And with that, it will be easier for hyperscalers and all these guys to come in and start doing all this peering and everything in those locations, so that it's very easy for the submarine cable already is connected to Abuja, but you'll be in one location or 2 locations, and that's all.
Okay. So you've talked about replicating the model. So let's unpack that model a little bit. To land a subsea cable, you get all of your permits, you get your money, as Mark was saying, a lot of money. You land your cables, you buy your land, you build, and luckily, you're probably in sync with an open access, carrier neutral data center, and you figure out a way to get from your landing to that location, and your work is done. So how do we, because people will come to you, how do we replicate such a model going across all of the challenges that we've talked about up country, landing in some location? Can we really take that same model, or do we have to be more creative? I like what Said said earlier about partnerships. And what I sense from the way you described it is that we should figure out ways in which some entity that has got a lot of capacity at the coastal landings gets that capacity to an upcountry location. Now, usually, I'd like to think from a little bit of experience that I have is that everybody would like to do that. But the bills are interesting. And we understand why the bills are interesting, because you're spending so much money on restoration and all of that. So you're thinking, do I invest more money in this. So what kind of partnerships, and this is open to everyone here, what kind of partnerships can we have such that the guy who has his 12 terabits or 15 terabits in Lagos can get some of that up country, and then there's access to the markets there on whatever, however it is. I'm not offering solutions really. We just want to investigate what is possible. What can a network operator do without giving, and we need to remember that most of the people who put money into bringing that capacity to Lagos, or maybe now to Akwa Ibom in addition to Lagos, they see the rates. When you ask somebody in Nigeria for a quote to get whatever number of gigs between Lagos and that other place, they see the rates and they wonder, why would this be times 10 of what we've seen elsewhere? You know what? That Lagos, we stayed there. Leave it to someone else to solve the problem. So what kind of models do you think can evolve really to help us, to take us? We know the problems are here, and we've said collaboration is the answer. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been here every year for the last maybe 18 years, and collaboration has always been identified as the key. Yes, I'm that old. So, yes, we've run this for that long. So we've identified that collaboration is the key. What action can we take? And I think at the end of the day, if we follow the money, really, we should be able to do things that, even if it's just going to be a few people who make money out of it, we know how to copy in Nigeria. Other people will do the same thing and they will solve that problem and move on to another one. So, models.
I think it's a tough one because of the market size. Everything is have to be Naira and Kobo at the end of the day. Collaboration is a tough one. It's still going on. It's only that the pace is very, very slow. So let's say we have only 3 of major national fiber backbone provider in Nigeria, right? Consider that with the number of people that have submarine cable. Number of submarine cable is even more than the national fiber, right? So, and that's where all those challenges come. And you can't even put your money on national fiber network if you don't have other means of monetizing it. So the reason why the MNOs put their money in it is not because they want to be reselling capacity of it, but it's for their own primary customer. However, there is opportunity now that they can now extend into maybe selling of dark fibers, wavelength, which is, as I'm talking to you, is ongoing, but as I said, it's very, very, very slow. So when you want to collaborate, what are you bringing to the table? Already, MNOs have all the access to the six submarine cable. They bought IRU from them. So when you are coming and they say, oh, I have submarine cable, they tell you, oh, I'm already present in all the 6 cables. So what am I getting from you if I have to at least even give you a better pricing or whatever it is? So it has that market sizing side of it that is supposed to drive those things. But I don't see the business case is not robust enough. If you can't just put your money to start running fiber from Lagos to Abuja for the wholesale carriers alone, it's not something that you might find profitable at the end of the day. So maybe we should work on it. Maybe we need to get the government in it. And people, hyperscalers like you too, you can support. It's not just bringing in the submarine cable, but maybe to have support in terms of national fiber build. And that's the only way that the pressure on the cost maybe can go down.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. how am I going to put this? Um, there are companies within Nigeria that already have assets, fiber assets that's national, that has not been tapped into, right? So imagine you picking that kind of company and, like you said, wavelength, dark fiber, give me 4 pairs. I want to get from Lagos to Abuja. Once you get that, you partner with a foreign company that will bring in the Forex, put in your active devices, of take 400 gig from Lagos, drop it in Abuja for me. Then suddenly you are doing FTTH at, I'm just quoting figures, maybe 5,000 naira a month. Won't people buy it? Right? Fiber to the home. And right now we have this petrol crisis. Everybody is like, transportation is difficult. Companies are like, you know what? Instead of increasing salaries, sit at home, work from home. Work from home becomes very sticky. It becomes very essential. And having stable internet at home is very key to that, right? So it's a multi-dimensional way of solving the problem without breaking the bank. Because again, as a business owner, you don't want to spend too much and not recoup your money, right? But Lagos to Abuja is a very important route. Lagos, Port Harcourt, Anambra, I know one of my peers here, he said I should mention Anambra is very important. We go up north, just connect at both sides, west and east, and just grow that penetration into the northern part of the country. The Minister for Communication, Bosun, he had a very ambitious goal, that 90,000 kilometers of terrestrial fiber. They're trying to raise money for it and all that stuff. But it would be good for them to leverage on the existing ISPs that have infrastructure already in the ground. Already in the ground. Right? So leverage on us and let's fully utilize what we have. Then where we don't have, we kind of bridge that gap. That's the kind of, it's multi-dimension. You really have to engage multiple stakeholders for it to make it happen.
Okay.
Just to buttress on that 90,000 kilometers.
Me too. I'm going to buttress on that 90,000. Carry on.
I think it's very important for the government to engage the stakeholders who already have that infrastructure, right? And see how that collaboration can take place. Instead of just building another fresh, new, and at the end of the day, it might become a big project that will not might see light of the day. Collaboration with the existing owners who have submarine cables, who have national fiber network, and area where they don't have coverage, then you can decide to build in those area. Then the electronics part of it, I don't think that should be an issue for the, we have vendors like Huawei and all those guys that can always come in and support.
Okay, so I very much agree that we should look at what's on the ground before we start to build additional. And from what I've seen, the current ministry, at least in the early days of talking about that plan to roll out 90,000 kilometers, reached out to a number of players in the industry. Now, what I'm not sure about is, did they reach out with, this is what we want to do, get on board? Or was it a matter of, this is the problem we're trying to solve? What do you have? How are we going to augment this? I think there's still the opportunity to reach out to them, also to reach out to the funders, the primary funders. I think it was supposed to be a World Bank 50% matching fund thing, to reach out to them to say, hey, this is what the people who have currently invested. And I think some effort can be put into quantifying the existing investments, both in terms of the fiber that's in the ground, the rights of way that's been paid, and the money that has been spent on operations and maintenance over the years, as well as looking at, oh, this is the lifespan of what I've got in there. How about we work together to augment this? I think that really, if the industry can reach out to the ministry on this particular matter, I think it'd be very helpful. So whatever that money is, it reduces, and then we can apply it to what's on the ground. And as we've said, from between yesterday and now, getting the government in as stakeholders is going to help everybody. So we have assignment once again. How are we going to get to that point where we are feeding this input to the ministry? At least we know that that's some entity that wants to take on the entire nation, and they want to solve that problem.
I think I agree with you.
Okay, so we're in agreement now.
I agree.
How are we getting to the minister and the World Bank?
Maybe the Artcon, and some other representative of government here.
Now you're pushing it to someone else. This is your business, so.
So I think everybody has to come together, right? And I think the bigger players have a role to play, right? MTN, all the big threes, right? They have a big role to play to make it happen, right? You know, the kind of tax that, MTN, the likes of Airtel pay yearly, government would want to listen to them, right? And I think they should be in the forefront of leading that discussion and engagement. Imagine we have a forum like this. Minister is here, NCC is here, all the players in the industry, we're together, and we try to come up with these questions and pain points and how can we collaborate. What we even have on the ground. Let's do an audit of what all the ISP has nationally and try and map it in such a way that, now we notice this is where we don't even have fiber, right? This is where we have fiber, so we don't need to get money and build another one, right? So there are a lot of ways we can, other ideas will pop out of that could even be better, right? I know Google has one special infrared radio that can carry 20 gig, right? We can leverage on that in areas where fiber is not financially viable because of the population of that kind of local area, right? So it can be an hybrid. It can be a collection of solutions that will be able to get us to where we want to be.
Okay. It sounds promising. We just need to bail the cat now. That's the major work to do. What's the next step? From all of our discussions so far, I've picked out that, yes, collaboration is important. The business models are very, very important, because if there's no business to be done, then why are we building? Or maybe what we need to do is find people who are in the business of giving money to solve such problems. I don't know. You talked about the big three and the amounts of tax that they paid, but now they are crying and saying that there's no money for tax even at the end of the day. So whose voice is stronger?
And that's why I mentioned about, imagine we have a Nigerian telco infrastructure or ISP bank, right, that can give those loans out at very low interest rates.
The plan has to be bankable.
Pardon?
The plan has to be bankable. You've come now to say that you're going to be fixing fiber every 60 seconds.
I know, and that's where government has a role to play. You mentioned that if the rate of fiber cuts can reduce by 40%, we will feel it. Our operation cost will drop significantly, right? So if government is playing its role, we will feel it. We will be more, we'll make more profit, and that will allow us to, books will look very friendly to the investors, and we can be able to continue to invest and grow.
Okay. Throw it open to the floor now. Questions for our panelists? Yes, sir. Dr. Coker in the back there, at the back. Joshua in front. Microphones, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tunde Koka, CEO of Open Access Data Centers. I'm also on the group leadership of WIOC Group, which covers WIOC connectivity and data centers and open access technology services that we provide. That's for background. Now, there's been some discussion around the need for open access connectivity, right, in a way. And unfortunately, my colleague, Nikki, couldn't make it, so I'll just chip in on that point, that we've been building open access connectivity, national long distance, across the country. And, get there however we get there, either own build, partnering with other providers. So that's in place and in process, right? Lagos, Abuja, Brown, Port Harcourt, through Abuja, and so on. The challenge is also protection, okay? Getting the levels of protection could be three or four, not even twice, 3 or 4 levels of protection and diverse routes. So that's something that's happening and progressing, and I can speak from our point of view. The other thing that was mentioned also was fiber to the home. This is actually being, it's all open access, being built out. I think many here will know that number of houses passed, or whatever the metric is, continues to improve significantly. And that speaks to that comment that was made that we actually really need to have open access, fiber to the home, and so on. The benefit of that is it actually reduces the barrier to entry to smaller players and ISPs who can now differentiate through the quality of service to the end customer, rather than being differentiated by the access to infrastructure funding that they'll have a problem doing. But we are just relentless in the drive to get the right kind of funding that enables that infrastructure to happen. Still earlier days yet, in places like Lagos, for instance, and it's also speaking to the issue around right-of-way. Well, in Lagos, the approach at the government level to right-of-way is being constantly, updated and innovated and anything and everything, okay? But nevertheless, with the open access connectivity, as Dewale said, takes away, it actually effectively aggregates the capability of providing transmission without everybody paying open access. And in my view, when I have the opportunity to speak to governors, I say actually what you ought to be doing is putting the incentives for connectivity to come to your state, not thinking of the short term of getting right-of-way revenues, which actually end up killing your state, and you don't make that much money because people don't come. And it makes the bankability of the project an issue, okay? And that's something that has been being pushed at national level and also at local level. And operating across Africa, I tell you what, the right-of-way is something that's a general issue that has to really be addressed. I mean, even in places like Kinshasa, for instance, okay? Now, to then add to the other thing from what was discussed about what the minister is doing. This has been out, as it's out in the press. They're looking at the stakeholders that are able to produce and partner in delivering open access framework, because we absolutely need it for the development of the country. We have a per capita problem in many, many dimensions in this country. 200 million people, you could be the biggest provider of something. As soon as you divide it by 220 million people, then it goes from number 1 to number 20 or something like that. So if you look at fiber penetration per capita, we have around about 60, 70,000 kilometers, I think, for 220 million people, for a significant amount of land mass. South Africa is about 120,000 kilometers, right? For about quarter of the population. So that emphasizes the per capita difference between the two countries, okay? So we need the implementation of any which way the fiber. Because we know very, very quickly, satellite, even lower with satellite capacity, can be constrained very, very quickly as soon as you put the stress of population on it. So we need efficient fiber capacity. So what was actually being done is to bring together all of the DFIs, as many as possible, bring together the funding from wherever else, or World Bank, or so on, bring together the operating partners. Government doesn't efficiently implement fiber, but can create the right environment. And what the minister said is, how can we get the kind of special purpose vehicles in place with the right framework that brings the investment that enables efficient implementation of another 90,000 kilometers of fiber, building on top of absolutely everything and everything else that we have. So just giving that perspective and adding to the discussion from the perspective of what we've seen at WIOC and some of the things that we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Coker. So on the last point, so you're saying that it's an additional 90,000, and I'm hoping that that means there's no commonality between this additional 90,000 and what already exists?
I would say that coming out of the architecture that's put in place. It's in leadership, the first thing is to make the statement of an intended outcome. The what. The next thing is around the how, and you look at all the combinations of the how. So in additional 90,000 kilometers, you're also actually probably delivering about 70,000 kilometers when I talk about the issues of protection. However, a very significant move is that digital infrastructure has been gazetted as critical national infrastructure in the last 2 months. Quite interestingly, actually, the UK did the same thing around about a month later. So it's nice to see an African country delivering an element of leadership in some of these areas. So when you put all of these things together, the additional 90,000 kilometers then gets put into perspective for doability, right? If you don't do it, you won't build it out. And we have issues that we all see all of the time around access to capital. Is it bankable? Is it not? Those are really things that have to be done. You see, the World Bank set up a digital directorate, which was launched earlier this year, because of the recognition of the transformative effect digital infrastructure has on economies, right? We all know the fiber penetration and the uptake on GDP, and we all talk about over and over again. But you see, getting fiber penetration is one thing. Getting the fiber, the adoption of broadband is not just down to fiber. It's meaningful broadband. It's what's important. Fiber gets you to a point, and from there you distribute on your last half kilometer or last mile or whatever it is that you choose to have. But getting the adoption is the real transformative thing. So that's the kind of role the World Bank is having here. And then people say, look, just dumping money into government is not going to give you the fiber penetration and the adoption and so on. But making the framework available of access to the investment that enables execution capacity through the private sector. And what works in different countries work in different ways. So Nigeria is adopting its own in a way that would work for itself as a country. And I'm seeing similar things constantly come up in other countries in Africa and other countries in Africa that we operate in as well. So I hope that puts perspective to that question that, well, 90,000 kilometers additional, what does it mean? You know, so even with 90,000 kilometers per capita, it's still behind South Africa. And we run long distance networks in South Africa. We understand the issues that you have there. The scale and requirements and demands are going up, as we've seen over the last few years. You know, you see that in your own data, and a few others in this room have it in their own data, right? So even with that, it's still catching up per capita on what's happening in other places like South Africa, but it's significantly better than quite a few other countries like Congo, DR Congo, Congo Republic, other countries across key locations in Africa.
All right, thanks, Dr. Koka. So one other thing that you said, I know we have Joshua had his hand up, and okay, the thing you said about open access FTTH, it's interesting, and I don't know if that's something that people in Nigeria are today looking to leverage. Is the trust, are the trust levels that high that this guy who's providing you the open access FTTH network is not just waiting for you to do the legwork, put the connection at the customer's place and snap up that customer. So that's one side. How mature are we to deal with open access FTTH? And I think just to simplify, it's the idea that somebody can provide you the infrastructure to connect a home or an office without you owning any of that infrastructure. So there'd be some commercial arrangements between you and such an entity. And maybe that solves also the problem of demand, where you're saying, I'm running fiber between here and there, I'm not seeing enough demand. Because the reality is, if you have only 2 customers, you're still trying to put all of your O&M costs on those 2 customers. But if you got someone like me now, running a small network in my area and making money from it, then I can come to you and use your infrastructure.
So, Mr. Coker, great submission, and we're already in partnership with WIOC on the open access. Once we're launching very soon, right? And one thing about ideas is you have to start. Challenges would come, right? But you have to start. And starting, you learn in the process, you get better at it, and the customers would be able to have access to, fiber infrastructure and the broadband service, right? And that's where we want to get to, right? And the internet penetration in Nigeria, as he said, is really low. We're really behind. We have a lot of catching up to do. And one thing I'm very confident about is once we get it right, we would exceed, right? We would exceed. So, and I think, and again, collaboration partnership would go a long way in getting us there.
Okay. I know there are 2 hands there. I want to learn something from 2, and this is because we're looking at the demand side, to the homes, fiber to the premises, affecting what happens on the long haul links. Matthew, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I know that Matthew GVA, yes, I know that outside Nigeria, they've done things where they've set up small networks and the growth trajectory has been crazy. In places where you would ordinarily assume that there's no demand or they're not going to sell. So yeah, he's smiling there. He's making a lot of money. Don't mind him. But so yes, I'd like you to share what's helped us or what's helped you grow so much and so fast. Are there any lessons that we can learn about the environments there and that we can apply here to help us grow our own digital infrastructure?
There is no one single answer to that. We operate in 8 countries, 13 cities, from Kinshasa to Bobo Dioulasso. I don't know if anybody knows where Bobo Dioulasso is. This is the 2nd biggest city of Burkina Faso. So you've talked about infrastructure, about northern Nigeria. Trust me, I think it's easier to go to Kano than going to Ouagadougou or Bobo Dioulasso. So I think you need regulatory support. You need political support in terms of, you need the ministry or whoever is in charge in your country to want to develop a digital economy, provide affordable, high-speed internet access. That's where it comes from. If the government doesn't want you to invest and develop in some places, not going to happen. You can come with all the will and all the money. It's not going to happen. So first thing it would be to put that in mind, because at the end of the day, especially us who are just an ISP, building network, we aim to become a commodity. We aim to just, you go home, your internet is on, you do whatever you have to do. It's work, it's entertainment, it's education, it's whatever. And some states or government, I've understood that they would need to help us come, so their market will change, their market will evolve, more competition, more, and at the end of the day, price will go down, more people will get online, and I've listened yesterday and today, and I hear a lot of people talking about right-of ways and taxes and stuff like that. At the end of the day, some government need to understand that maybe you can give up a bit of money on right of ways and taxes, but you will recover on new company, new businesses that will grow because of us. We just, if the ISP are not here, people like Google or Amazon or Facebook will not be able to make a business because those end users will not be online. So we're just one small brick in here. And there, in terms of infrastructure, obviously it's easier to start in a coastal city because we all need some marine capacity. But things are also moving in inland cities or inland countries. We operate in Goma, Eastern DRC. To reach the sea in Mombasa, you need to go through Rwanda, through Uganda, and through Kenya. That's 3 different countries just to be able to get your submarine capacity. And still we operate in Goma, in Northern Kivu, and you all know the situation in Northern Kivu. So it can be done. It's just a will and having everything aligned in order to be able to invest and develop your business.
All right, thanks. So the government needs to be really interested in making money from digital infrastructure, but not making it right now from the infrastructure, rather making it from the things that will come off that.
If I was going to invest in Nigeria today, I don't have a business. My revenue are 0. If you come and tax me with 0 revenue, it's never going to happen. If you ask people to come to invest, let them grow a business, make money, then there's money to tax. But if there's no revenue, there's no money to tax.
Right, thanks, Matthew. Joshua, your question or contribution?
Yeah, I was going to speak on a couple of things. One of them was the fact that we already know that NCC has the USPF, which is the Universal Service Provision Fund. As much as I don't have an overview of what happens there, and when we were doing this, one of the individuals that I wanted to be part of here was the ES, and though he didn't come, but that's something else. But I feel that's something we can tap on, right? And I think for some reason, he seemed quite open to listen to what people have. And I feel that that's something ISPs can maybe want to punch out to see if NCC has what they have in mind, what vision they have in terms of this. Another is building local consortiums. And I think Dr. Ayo spoke about it, and a lot of people have spoken about it. But I feel we come here every year, we speak a lot, and we don't go back with these consortiums. And by it, I mean is Airtel is sitting here, BCN is in Abuja. You can always have the collaborations to say, which you do have, I know, in the Kano route and the other routes. Before you come for me, I know, to say we want to build these local metros to these locations, and how do we have it? That way we don't rebuild ourselves. I know that in places like Abuja, which I used to be in an ISP in Abuja at some point, we have BCN rolling at same location, let's say in Buye, We have phase 3 rolling same place. We have GBB rolling same place. We have maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 providers rolling in some location. And then you already capture those sites, and places like maybe in Guarimpa and in Lokogoma or down to Kuje or stuff, you have 0 people because 5 of us, 5 or 10 people are rolling in the same place at the same point. So I feel like we need to figure out how to work on consortiums, maybe on the larger scales in metro locations, because if we all have to complement ourselves, it helps us. But if we all want to compete within ourselves, we are the funny part is that places where we really need this internet, maybe our homes. Some of us don't even have this good internet in our own homes, even though we are airspace, right? I'm playing this. So, for example, if I live in, let's say, in the Lagos context, I live somewhere in the borders of Ogun State, but I work in who is the sponsor here I can use? I work in telecables, for example, or main one.
You can't hire him.
I work in Main One and I live in a good state. I could bet my money that I won't have that connectivity in my house because I have focused on the metro side and I've had to dabble with other people. So I feel like working on local consortiums, you don't need the Facebook, you don't need the AWS and the Google to have to do the consortium for you on the subsea cables, and you don't want to have a consortium within yourself. I feel those collaborations are something we need to look at. Finally, I would say long-term investment might be something we need to also look at. I'm not throwing shit at you. BCN, for example, and other people love the short-term investment when it comes to delivery of service.
It's a survival game these days,
but
Joshua.
We need to figure out on how to have a long-term investment in terms of if we feel we want to get this done. He said it, the government needs to think about it long-term. We as business people also need to think about long-term to say, if we're able to have this done in the next maybe 6 months and our revenue will come back in the next 2, 3, 4 years, that's something we can double around. Else we have to suffer with the space guys and other people coming to take away the business from us. And then at the end, it's a loss for all of us, So I feel like we should have collaboration as a spirit. We should look at consortium as something good. We should also explore the conversation with NCC and other people in terms of the service provision fund.
Thank you.
Let me just talk
yeah.
about it. Maybe it might not be visible, but I can tell you that there are ongoing engagement between the stakeholders. I can tell you vividly. One is there when they were building their Kwaibo fiber and all that. The operators are aware. They informed us. They showed us where the route is, and there are some partnership as in terms of maybe some routes that need to be among themselves. Same thing with even WIOC too. A lot of collaboration taking place with them. Same thing with BCN. In fact, just had some meeting like about almost over a month ago.
So
things are going on.
Are bringing collaboration.
The only thing is maybe it's not enough, or maybe we need to scale it bigger than what we are doing right now. I need to respond to Mr. Tunde's Koka in terms of resiliency, because that is one of the major pain area in telecom right now. So you have a scenario where you have a 700-kilometer cable coming from Lagos to Abuja, and you can't go 1 hour without having fiber cut. So what it means is like you have to build additional routes from Lagos to Abuja so that you can protect them. If not, once the first route is out, the second route is out, your tertiary route might go down within the same day. So one of the things we need to take out from here is to get the government to see how they can have a framework regarding the kind of construction that is ongoing. So we can't tell the state and the federal not to build road, but there must be like a framework when they are building their roads in such a way that ducts must be available when they are building it, and there are enough notification for the cable owners. Not that the contractor will just go to site and start working and in the process pulling out cable here and there. And even when you're trying to, okay, let me move away my cable from this place, those things are huge costs, and they are the operational issues that is affecting the cost of providing services. So now if I am supposed to roll out a 700 kilometer and I need to use only one transmission device with transponder and amplifier, because I have to avoid that cable cut, I have to put more routes, then putting more electronics, right? I need to now pay contractors who will be maintaining those new routes that I'm putting in there. So at the end of the day, I'm not doing an NGO business. I have to just pass on the cost to the consumer. So if we have that framework and we can reduce the number of destruction on the cable, then the price of services too would definitely go down.
Okay, so this year I'm all about specific action points because there are lots of problems. And something I picked from you just now is that when there's construction work to be done, before telling us to come and move our cables, let there be a framework that dictates that there should be ducts available. And if I would latch on to what Joshua said, he says the current executive secretary of the USPF is happy to, that's the Universal Service Provision Fund, where all of your operating levy contributions and all of that ends up. He says he's open to listening. You've brought an idea now. I'm sure there's plenty of money in USPF, regardless of what anybody says. So maybe what we should be driving towards is accessing some of those funds for the purpose of building ducts like that. Because by default, anybody who is building a road will tell you that that duct is going to increase the cost of this road. But if we're taking a big picture approach towards it, then maybe we can start thinking about, okay, this is how we fund this particular portion of it. Okwe, you had a question or contribution. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Okwe Olateru. I work for the MNOs, Airtel, Telesonic to be precise. I just want us to a contest. The cost of IP from London to Lagos 2 years ago was half cost of Lagos to Maiduguri. Now is a third, like a third of it is. So that means there is a problem. Deyemi mentioned it recently. Can you imagine Lagos, Port Harcourt, Coastal Road that government is saying they are building, and they said it include a duct there? The issue to Port Harcourt will be half solved. If they can, as in, government need to be intentional about what they're doing. It's not just you telling me you are doing road. What about ducts to Port Harcourt? Why can't you include the cost of doing that duct? That's an alternate route. Then one other thing I want to say, I'm from the commercial side. And most times customer calls me 2 a.m., oh, my link is down, my alternate route is down. The major problem is the basic fundamentals that are supposed to have been done from the inception of the telecom industry, which was not done. The green guys will lay a cable through a route. Yellow guys will lay a cable through the route. Red guys through the same route. And we discover when there is a downtime, all the 3 operators are affected. Or one operator is affected, the other 2 operators are not affected. You see everybody running. Oh, the green guys will run there, the yellow guys will run there. Everybody is running. But why can't we think outside the box? They are constructing rail lines in the country. Can't we look at other alternatives so that these ducts will be along the rail line in such a way that the government they just need to carry the MNOs along and in solving this issue. It's a fundamental thing that was wrong from the inception of the telecoms, but how can they correct it going forward, even with the 90-kilometer fiber? Because I saw a lot of online facade about they are doing this, they are doing that. What is the modality? How are you carrying the MNOs along? What can we do differently? We've missed it from the start. If government is awarding a road contract, can we make it a policy that there's a duct? I was so annoyed when I heard that they are building Coastal Road to Port Harcourt and there is no duct. And we kept on complaining about issues to Port Harcourt regularly. They are building rail lines. There is no provision for critical assets. And once there is a major construction road, all the three guys are running to fix the same problem. So we need to think outside the box. The Minister of Digital Economy needs to think, just like Matthew said, it's collaboration and engagement. Minister of Digital Economy cannot be doing his own, and Work Ministry is doing his own. They need to be collaborative among the two, and let's provide a solution to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Okwe. Okay, money will solve some of these things. I think on the rail infrastructure, there are concessions that have been granted, aren't there?
Yes, there's one, I think, between Lagos and Ibadan.
I think you know the way
No,
to
it's
Kano.
Lagos to Abuja. It's Kano, you're right.
So
Lagos
there
to
are
Kano.
some of these things, and maybe more work needs to be done to bring the players in all of these spaces together.
Yeah, we are also talking to NRs. We're in discussion with them.
Okay. Ade has a comment. Rev has a comment. Okay. I have eaten all the time, but let's make it brief, please. Thank you.
So I'm just going to try to add to what Okwaya said. And I agree that government has a lot to do, but I think as an industry, we also need to re-strategize. Today, I'm not sure of how we engage government, right? I don't think government will come to us, right? We need to go to them. And I'm not sure today how that engagement is being done, right? However we are doing it, it's not working, right? And we need to, I give you a typical example. There's construction going on in Ogun State axis, and I can tell you for free, it's a nightmare, right? So as an industry, we need to re-strategize how we approach government. We need to make our voice heard such that when government wants to do such projects, they come and understand where we have our infrastructure and then factor it into whatever they want to do, right? But we need to re-strategize. However we're engaging today, it's not working. Whether through ATCON or HACON, it's not working.
Thank you, Ade. Well, we've gotten them to come to us. A year ago, we did that. So, but you're right. It's clearly not working because whatever it is that we engaged on in that session, I'm not sure how well we've followed up because, as everybody here knows, working with government requires follow-up. Yes, sir.
Okay, for Lion, Sunday, I work for the internet and for Nigeria. It's good to hear some of these things, but let me remind you of where we are coming from. Maybe when we know where we are coming from, we'll know why we are missing the mark. Two things. We're talking of infrastructure build-out. Have we forgotten what USPF is supposed to be? Universal Service Provisioning Fund. So, you are going to go from a densely built area, passing through a low-density area. The fund should be used in developing that low-density area, which includes building ducts, by the way. So operators can challenge government that we want USPF to be used in building ducts. But what is USPF used for now? Providing computers in selected secondary schools in Lagos West Senatorial District. Guess who are the people bidding for the contract? The same operators. Shameless. I'll leave that to one side. The second thing, where we were coming from, I placed a call from network A to network B. It costs each network a certain amount to provide the services to the end users. So the operators end up splitting the costs in some agreed percentages, which used to be known, but it's now very nebulous and not known. Now, when there's a problem with the network, the users don't want to know that it's the originating network or the terminating network that is faulty. What the users know is that the networks are bad, plural. So the operators are competing to have the best network, forgetting that if the network of their competitor who is terminating their call is bad, the consumers think the entire network is bad. So it is in the interest of every operator to make sure that their competitors don't go down. And the banking industry has succeeded in conquering this demon that is afflicting the telecom industry. When a bank is distressed, there will be a run on the entire banking industry, not that distressed bank. And that's why you see the banking industry make sure that when a particular bank is distressed, they shore it up, they prop it up, they do everything. Telecom, we're waiting for them to die so that we can take their customers, which we may still not get because the entire telecom industry would be seen as not optimal, not functional. We need to fix those two things. And you don't need government to sit and arbitrate among operators to be decent to each other. If operators come together and say, this is what we want USPF to be used for, trust me, there is power in coming together. You know, when spiders unite, they can tie a lion. That's an African proverb. We continuously compete and leave the larger pot to be taken by those who are not affiliated to what we are doing. I'm sorry if I've ruffled feathers this morning. That's my nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend, for ruffling those feathers. And I believe that was the last. Oh, sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is John Apopo. I work with Cedarview. I've been in the MNO for over 15 years, but I just moved to the ISP environment. Just to buttress what my colleague have just said, I think there is still this competitiveness between the ISP and the telcos. So, which I think it should be resolved, you know. Instead of having this competitiveness, we should be collaborators. I'm just trying to pick up a 100 gig link between WAX and a customer. But it's taking so long, almost 3 weeks, and the customer has been complaining. So because of so many bureaucracies, so I think if we can actually work together as a team, I think we'll go a long way together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So thank you all. I'll kick it back here to my colleagues. Last words, summarizing all of this, what you look forward to seeing happen as a result of our engagements here. I think it's pretty important that we can capture and act, whatever your recommendations are. Start with you.
First of all, the discussion around collaboration is something that everybody is saying here. We should not allow it to end here just as a mere talk. There should be like a working group that we can form from this engagement. I know there's a body called ArtCon, Association of Telecommunication, can work with them. Most of those things we have been saying, they have been trying their best, but maybe try to push some things more from, maybe even from the hyperscalers like you guys in Google and others, AWS, can help us push more, at least when they know the number of revenue and the kind of money involved. Maybe the government might listen properly. Collaboration is key. That need to go across board. Government engagement we need to do more regarding government engagement because it's strategic to whatever we are doing, and that is the only thing that can sustain the business going forward. Apart from those two, I think those are two key takeaway for me from this place.
Thank you.
Yes, it's been a wonderful session, and I really appreciate the audience's contribution. And I think, again, back to Yemi, I think collaboration, partnership, government engagement in a different way, because what we're doing right now is not working. But that doesn't stop us from us within ourselves trying to make change. And the will to do that change, I think we really need to talk within ourselves and strengthen the relationships that we have and try to solve it within ourselves, right? I mean, the ISPs, the MNOs, let's work collaboratively. Let's form a solid front to engage government in a very compelling way so that whatever we're saying would resonate and would push for action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Said and Yemi. I'm not going to add to what you've said and what you all have said. All I'm going to do is create or attempt to create, now that I have the mic, an additional checkpoint. We meet here every year, and we're able to do this courtesy of our very kind sponsors. Nobody pays to attend. Beyond your transportation and accommodation contributions that you make, everything here is taken care of by the sponsors and their kind support. So a round of applause for them, please. And so I'm trying now to extend the scope of this to a halfway checkpoint where we can review what we've done about what the things that we said we would do. Professor Adedokun, it's you I'm pointing that one to, so that we can, at some point, before the next time we get here, review what we've been able to do, what we've taken action on. So beyond, everybody's here, you've made new personal relationships and friends, business relationships. We should look at that collective part of things that we're talking about so that we can actually have good results before the next time we meet here again. Thank you very much. Mr. Moderator is about to, the MC is about to kick me off the stage.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Diwali. Yeah, insightful.